Okay, welcome everybody. This is Dr. Terrence Duncan, and we got the co-host Queen Carmel Brown for Mahogany Thoughts. This is the 18th episode, and with us today we have Dr. Wayne Richards Jr., Wayne K. Richards Jr. Mr. or Dr. Richards, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How y'all doing this evening?
Doing pretty good, pretty good. Our ghost, Terrence Butler, he's actually on location at another volleyball game. He's probably angry because his daughter's wearing the shorts and stuff, and he just probably sitting with his turnover chain, angry as everything and stuff. So every time Butler's not on there, I always just think about just the thought, how to be, what's it? How to be, no, thin line between love and hate. When my man was talking to Jamie Foxx. So every time he talks about his daughter and whether it be the basketball shorts or the volleyball shorts, I just think about the brother with the gun just sitting here talking about, man, try me. So, Butler, I know he's gonna be jumping on a little bit later, but you know, don't kill him out there, bro. So anyways, Carmel, what's going on with you?
Well, not too much. I had my first COVID-19 vaccination today, so feeling pretty positive about that. Had a very busy week, but an awesome week.
Great, great, great. I had my COVID shot a couple of weeks ago. Didn't really have any symptoms or anything like that. I'm always busy, so I mean, if I did feel tired, it probably wasn't no more tired than I am on a normal day. So, I try to encourage people, especially African American, get the shots. Because I mean, for all the excuses that we make why not to get a vaccine, it's like we're going to do augmentations and we're going to do drinking and smoking cigars and hookahs and all this other stuff. When you start talking about, well, you don't know the long-term effects of the vaccine, then you lost your argument with me. So, but if you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. So, no peer pressure and stuff. But if you want to get this economy back open, trust the data, trust the science. All of us are through our profession. We do trust the data and we trust the science. And I hate shots,
Mm-hmm.
I hate needles, and I not try to run to get a shot at all. But it was one of those things. It was either that or be in the ventilator and die. And I choose to kind of live. So that was my approach.
Yeah, I'm gonna choose the 95%. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the 95%.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
and at the point, the other thing too, stuff. I mean, what they had over 100 million people globally that's already been vaccinated. So, I mean, look at the severe hospitalization, severe side effects, hospitalizations, and death rates after getting their vaccine. It's so minuscule.
Mhm.
I mean, you have a better chance of winning the lottery than actually being sick and dying after getting a COVID shot. So, yeah, we don't know truly all the long-term effects, but we also don't know the long-term effects of you actually being affected with COVID, even if it's asymptomatic. So always try. That's my PSA. That's my contribution to the medical community.
Yeah.
Please consider getting a shot. So,
Yeah.
uh,
And for me, if it's between trusting our top scientists and medical professionals or conspiracy theorists, I'm certainly going to go with the scientists and the medical professionals. In addition, we had no idea what was in the vaccinations that we got in those 70s and 80s for those of us who were alive in the 70s and 80s and, and before that as well. I'm saying 70s and 80s because that's our age group. And
Yep.
we had to have vaccinations to enter kindergarten. And I know last year I went to the passport agency and to the pharmacy to get a vaccination to travel internationally. And that was pre-COVID. So I don't know why we're so uncomfortable with COVID. We've had vaccinations since we were infants.
absolutely, absolutely.
Mm.
Doc, you had something to add on that?
I'll just say, I come from a family of healthcare professionals. My mom has been a nurse for 40 something years. My grandma was a nurse. My auntie's a nurse. My aunt's a nurse. So they say, boy, you better get that vaccine, right? I was in the military as well, right? And the only vaccine I didn't get was anthrax, but everything else I stayed vaccinated, especially when you're in a population and, COVID doesn't have a color or face and you can't see it and it just happens, right? So based off the science, I made the decision to go ahead and do it, just like I do my flu shots every year. In addition to me being healthy as well. So I am still pumping my vitamin C, my zinc, and all that other stuff in elderberry like I was before, but I still want to make sure that, you kind of put the icing on the cake to make sure that you're okay. Especially since I have diabetes, by the way. So got to make sure that I'm protected.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, Carmel, as I'm addressing one of the minor technical difficulties at the time, what has been going on in your world from our last podcast?
Well, how much time do you have?
Actually, I'm making the adjustment from what you sent me in a matter of seconds.
Okay, I was just asking because there's been a lot going on. I've had conferences and I've had some crises. I'm a licensed therapist, so I've had some clients that have struggled over these last couple of weeks coming in and out of the pandemic. I've had just a lot going on, more so things professionally that I have to catch up on. Business has been great. Hey, I won't complain about the rain. We ask for the rain, and then when we get it, then sometimes we complain. So I'm certainly not going to complain. I welcome it and I'm enjoying it, but it's definitely been a very busy 2 weeks for me.
Absolutely. And for myself, nothing really major going on. Still working on this book. I'm knocked out 6.5 pages today, graded 3 classes, cooked dinner. I've done a whole bunch of stuff just in one day and stuff, but just looking forward to just traveling a little bit more. I'm going to Vegas at the end of the month, and kids going on spring break starting Thursday, so I'll spend some time with them Thursday. Take them out to lunch, do some bowling, just something small. Probably watch that 4-hour Justice League and maybe treat it like a miniseries because that's a long movie to sit through. But other than that, everything else has been going cool. So we are going to go ahead and formally introduce Dr. Richards, and definitely a pleasure to meet him. And actually, while I'm getting the screen queued up for the presentation, I've known Dr. Richards. We've known each other for over 10 years, and we actually met each other at Walden University. That's where we got our doctorate degree from in LA. And so some of those stories won't be disclosed in the public airspace. But this brother knows me for a long time, and he's actually one of the most instrumental people in my life, because when I was really struggling with a lot of personal issues and some demons, Dr. Richards, who's also an associate pastor as well, he prayed for me for some of these challenges and stuff, because like when I came in, I was just all out of whack. And so even when I decided to walk away from the program because I just couldn't really get in the right mental space, he encouraged me to go ahead and seal the deal. So I'm always grateful, not only for his knowledge, but his leadership and just not giving up and stuff. And sometimes we need that. Our journey, nobody's self-made on this planet. If they say they're self-made, they're alive. And so just from a personal perspective, I'm always grateful for those in my life, even if they're not there anymore, and even for those who exist in my sphere today, to be able to help keep me growing and being motivated. So thank you for that always.
Appreciate it, man. You pushed me as well. So we were in a cohort together, and we got the initials in front of our name, right? So bumping into you in LA was probably the best thing that I ever did, because I just remember I felt out of place, right? And when I met a brother that was down to earth, it was just good to go. You know what I mean? So absolutely, it was equally a blessing.
Absolutely.
And I do thank you, Dr. Richards, for praying for Dr. Duncan, because had you not been instrumental in getting him through that tough time, who knows? I may not know the great Dr. Duncan today.
Oh, see how things always work out. Things happen in the universe and in God's way. So always a blessing, always a blessing. Yep. So we are going to formally introduce Dr. Richards. And so for the topics for this particular podcast, we're going to talk about that Southern life, New Orleans style. Dr. Richards is originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. My wife is from New Orleans, and it's kind of crazy. Before we actually went live, we just talked about some of the people that we know. So he knows several of her cousins, my cousins, and a lot of great stories. We actually caught up a couple of times in New Orleans, and we ate good, didn't we, bro?
Sure did.
And if you haven't been in New Orleans before, we eat. And New Orleans is like a second city to me. That's like my second home. And every time I go down there and stuff, man, now I have to make sure I bring walking shoes, fam, because I have to walk. I had to walk that food off because down south, we don't believe in a lot. They don't believe in a lot of vegetables. It's just a lot of meat and seafood.
And it's good. I went for the first
Good.
time at the end of actually New Year's of 2020, just a few months before COVID hit. I actually spent that New Year's. I brought 2020 in New Orleans.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool. I'm actually going to be there in a couple of days. I'm going home for Easter, so.
Okay, that's nice. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be actually there.
Yep.
Well, I'll chat with you offline, but I will be there for Memorial Day weekend too, and probably Thanksgiving. So we'll probably, if we happen to get down there and stuff, let's connect.
I definitely will be there for Thanksgiving, so I know. So
Okay,
we'll
cool.
talk.
All right, for sure. All right, so we're going to talk about that Southern life, New Orleans style. We're going to look at his point of view for overcoming adversity to success. Dr. Richards has a very good story about his journey to where he is today. And I just believe that it's relevant to be shared to others. We're going to talk about leveraging education to financial growth. He has his executive MBA, as well as a doctorate in business administration, as well as a project management professional certification. And we'll talk about what a PMP entails as far as the trends and opportunities. And he also has a not-for-profit, Rise, Build, Achieve. And he is the president and CEO with that, for that particular nonprofit. And without further ado, we have Dr. Richards.
Hey, how's it going, man? Let's just flow with it. You know what I mean? So you want to go, let's just talk about it, you know?
Absolutely.
So the city of New Orleans is near and dear to my heart, and I carry it wherever I go, even though I haven't lived there for a while. Everything I always say, we're naturally New Orleans, you heard me? So that twang comes out when I want it to. And the thing about my city is it's a beautiful city, right? The culture is beautiful, the food is beautiful, the people are beautiful. But there are some challenges that we have with that city, right? You know, as you see the demographics there, you know, most people think the word Creole means, you know, skin color, but the word Creole means to infuse multiple cultures together. So when we say that we're Creole, right, we're talking about the Native American, the African, French, Spanish, and some even Irish and Italian, right? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So when you have an infusion of all those different cultures into one, you get what you call New Orleans. That's why, like, there's no other city like that city, right? So one of the reasons why I didn't move back to New Orleans is that third bullet there. It has the highest poverty curve. I actually studied that when I was getting my MBA because I wanted to do, you know, a business, and I went and I looked at the numbers and the cold hard facts, and then I looked at how the poverty curve, 60% Black, you know, predominantly, and that's where you get the Red Nagin calling it a chocolate city, right? When we look at all those gentrifications, right? Not gentrification, stratifications, it all stems back from that fourth bullet where it was a farmer slave herd, right? You know, everything from Congo Square to Bucktown to the back of town to different places, you know, where slavery is all up and through New Orleans, right? And it has that prominence of Confederacy. But, you know, we didn't grow up knowing that. But if you walk the cities and listen to and look at the name of the streets, you'll see that, you know, racism and Jim Crowism and everything else was ingrained in the city, right? And another thing, as far as that fourth bullet there, the fifth bullet, you know, majority of New Orleans is Black, but most of the people in New Orleans, 80% of the poverty in New Orleans comes from that 60% of Black people, right? And when you look at it, it's inverted. You know, Pareto's principle always say 20% of the people get 80% of the wealth, right? Or 80% of the work. Whereas in this case, you have a population that's full of Black folks and opportunities are sparse, right? So that's one of the things we want to talk about, and that you know, from the mental subjugation perspective, right? New Orleans is one of those cities that's eclectic, despite the shortcomings and things, low educational rates and everything else, there's a wealth. Once you pull the lens back and you look at what the typical New Orleanian does, a lot of these people are smart, by industry standards, right? I remember living in Tucson, and they had a young brother had a U of A hat on, and everybody was like, well, y'all know about Arizona? And I snarkingly responded and say, we do go to college. We are smart, so despite all the challenges in the demographics, you have a lot of smart people. The college there, my brother graduated from Xavier University, and he was the valedictorian of Warren Easton, So if you look at the Smith clan and the Smith/Richards clan, you'll see my mom had 8 kids, but all of us were just uber smart, So even though we were in poverty, we didn't really know we were poor until we left the city, until we traveled. So that's just kind of where it is, from growing up in New Orleans. Challenges are there, but the thing is, the challenges, I believe, are opportunities for you to excel. And all the challenges that were put before me, from New Orleans have taught me lifelong lessons, right? So that's just an overview of where I'm from, from downtown Gentilly, 8th Ward. My mom still lives on Franklin Avenue. Grew up in the East. I went to Sarah T. Reed, Fantasy Williams for middle school. And that's where I know a lot of Terrence's family from, because they went to school with me. But that's all I have right there.
Yeah, actually, and it's so funny. I've been going in and out of New Orleans since 96, 97. And, like I said before, I wear New Orleans on my sleeve just as much as I wear St. Louis on my sleeve, because I've been there so much and familiar with a lot of the neighborhoods, the culture, the energy there. And, one of the things, especially after Katrina, it's really interesting just to see the disparities and stuff when you're talking about the rebuild, right? So you're looking at, it's like, I remember, my wife's from Lower Ninth Ward, CTC. I remember, unfortunately, her family's home got wiped away from the canal, from
Yep.
And so it was crazy, because when we went down to the Lower Nine, they had military, they had the National Guard or the military out there, Humvees and M16s just pointed towards everybody, and it was just crazy and stuff, because then when you go a little bit more towards Uptown, it's like nothing really happened. And it was just like a quick rebuild and stuff. And then, so he was talking about, I know he had mentioned about stratification. He was talking about, but you did mention gentrification. It was really interesting and stuff, because even on the West Bank, you saw like an influx of a lot of Latinx businesses and white businesses coming in and starting to buy up a lot of the houses. And they're still doing it to this day. So, like my wife's grandmother, who passed away, she had a house right by OPP. And that house was on sale for, when they sold the house for $242. But I believe, I think the last time I saw it was on the block for $500,000. So and so even just that whole little neighborhood, go down and out, just a bunch, more white people that stay in the neighborhoods, a little bit more, diverse and stuff, but at what cost? So there's a lot of challenges. Like even some of the schools, they're still struggling to get back to full capacity. And even just the infrastructure for some of the school systems, especially in the predominantly Black neighborhoods, they're still struggling. And these are the stories that are not being captured, which is one of the primary reasons why we have this podcast, is to be able to try to highlight, some of these stories that do not make the mainstream media. So thank you for your perspective on that. We're going to move to the next slide, and we're going to talk about the soul of New Orleans. So in the upper left-hand corner, that's one of my cousins, her cousins. He's a DJ, Gerard Cook, Go DJ, one of the Go DJ members, with their cousin, Christine, and Gerard's daughter, Baby A. This is the Mardi Gras Indians, and Dr. Richards, I'd like you to kind of speak on that for a second, as well as, people who are not from the New Orleans area. They probably wonder, like, what's this dude doing with this umbrella in his hand? There's a reason for that. And to the right, Po' Boys. I actually got that picture from We Never Close off the internet and stuff. But the soul of New Orleans is rich in Black cultural heritage, and they have, deep jazz blues roots and the high school bands. I mean, if you haven't been to Carnival, which is known as Mardi Gras outside of New Orleans and stuff, the bands is what make it happen. I mean, it's always about, the parades are dope, but you got to see the bands. And that's what makes it happen. And just one of a kind dining experience. It's funny. Many times I go to New Orleans, I don't eat to the rest. I don't go to the restaurants downtown. I go to Mama's house or Papa house, and y'all go to Uncle Lloyd. Hey, one of our uncles, they're doing a broil. And they get down with the food and stuff. And I know people out here, they try to make the little gumbo and their little boils and stuff like. And I seen you out in because you're out in Alabama right now and stuff, and you be joining on these cats making that gumbo, out there in Bama and stuff, because it's different, But Carmel, when you was in
that's a good way to put it.
Huh?
That's a good way to put it.
Oh yeah.
Different is a good way to put it. That's the politically correct way to say it.
Yeah, that's definitely. But Carmel, when you was down in New Orleans and stuff, did you get a chance? I mean, like, what areas were you able to check out? Were you like downtown? Did you get a chance to go eat anywhere? What stood out for you for as far as like the energy in New Orleans, Carmel?
Well, it was my first time going, and we ate in so many different areas. All I know is we ate the entire time we were there. And we did go to the downtown area, I think on New Year's Eve night. But other than that, we were in other places that weren't in the center of everything. So we did have some variety.
Absolutely. Butler, we got Butler. He's in the house now. Butler, you didn't choke nobody out at the volleyball game, did you?
Nah, no choking. I just put my head down and visualize something else.
That's funny, man. And
they took an L in 3 sets.
Oh man, I hate to hear that.
And I just told her, be sure you put some sweatpants on before you leave.
Hey, have you had a chance to be in New Orleans before, man?
No, we got to hit New Orleans. You tell me all the time. You frequent New Orleans, so I've never been to New Orleans in my life. I'm ashamed of myself.
You should be ashamed.
I am. I'm highly ashamed of myself. I gotta make it down.
Yeah, I mean from Essex.
So I've never been to St. Louis, so we're gonna have to make a trade, right? So.
No doubt.
Most definitely. So Dr. Richards, I didn't get a chance to get the slide on there, but he actually went to Southern University, known as the Human Jukebox, and I actually saw the Battle of the Bands. As many times I've been to New Orleans, I've only been to one Battle of the Bands, because normally just for travel and work, whatnot, it was hard to get down there for Thanksgiving. It's quite an experience. So if y'all have never seen the Battle of the Bands, and again, if you've never been to Mardi Gras and see, don't go to Canal Street. That's not Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras is in the neighborhoods. That's when you have the families. You got the grandma out there and stuff. She dancing. You got the DJ playing. They got block parties out there and stuff. Don't go to Canal Street. For Mardi Gras and stuff. Make sure you go outside of Canal. Most of the time we right by the bee tree. On 2nd Street. And
so
check it out. But
Mardi Gras, if you ever been to like a HBCU homecoming, right? That's the Black Mardi Gras experience is kind of you can correlate that to that, right? It's people having a good time, eating and drinking and dancing and doing it all over again in a cipher. You know what I mean? So.
What about the high school?
It's funny stuff? So the high schools, since Katrina has happened, right, it kind of diminished a little bit. But high school band was like a sport in the 90s, right, in the 80s, right. Either you played in a band or you was on a football team. And quite actually, most of the people in the band probably could have got starting positions on any sports team, right? I can name several, including myself. But the band, it gave us a lot of discipline. Most of us that are professionals now, there's a correlation between music and education, right? Most people that went to band were either, either went to college, picked up a trade, or did some good things, and you can actually look at the correlation between band and those people that are productive in society in New Orleans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Terrence, it's funny that you say we never closed, man, because that was my first legal job, just to be honest with you.
Oh, straight up.
Right? Yeah, it was in walking distance from my home in the East, and I just put an application in, and I used to do po' boys. That's what I did as a kid,
Eat your
But
hungry
New
story.
Orleans,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
you say what?
So
No,
each
go ahead. I
hungry
didn't hear what you
story.
said.
Every time I go back home, I always stop and give me a po' boy. And whether it be
Right.
Melba's or at a gas station, I'm gonna give me a po' boy on the way home. And I'll smash that mug right when I get to Mississippi.
So the good thing about this is what you said. Most people always come up to me and say, "Hey, Wayne, man, I'm going to New Orleans. Tell me what restaurant to eat." I'm like, I don't know. I really don't, because we don't really go out to eat like that. You go over somebody's mama house and somebody's cooked, or if you do carry out, you'll go get a po' boy, one of the big long loaves is what we would call it. And we, it might be half and half, and we'll just split that up between the family with a big shot. So right now, just to talk about those things, so we did the lower right quadrant, so we'll go up. And a lot of people always ask me, man, what is this Indian mass about, right? I see people massing, people say mask, but it's mass, right? So what is this about, right? And little as it's known, New Orleans, when I first started off, saying that most people think that the term Creole means skin color or red bone or something, right? The word Creole actually means to infuse multiple cultures. And one of the things that I would like to highlight is that Native Americans, we call them Indians, and that's why we say Mardi Gras Indians before it became politically incorrect to say that. But in Congo Square, right, is where, you used to always, that's where the slaves used to go, used to beat on the drums. And there's, the Indians, as we call them, right, I don't mean to be politically incorrect, actually helped a lot of slaves. And, the Native Americans is entwined, and you see people from uptown, downtown. There's different social and pleasure clubs, and there's different tribes, right? So, you may have the Seven Wall Headhunters, right? Who my friends, I have friends that are chiefs in that tribe, right? And what they do is they take these uniforms that you see with this pretty green here, and they come up with a color and a concept, and they sew those things all year long, right? So let's say Mardi Gras is the 28th of February, right? They start working on those uniforms, so like maybe a week or so after Mardi Gras, right? And the good thing about Mardi Gras is like you have the native, you got the Indians, right? Mardi Gras is a Catholic holiday, right? So if you come to New Orleans, you'll see a whole lot of Catholic influences, right? So Fat Tuesday means, what it means, right? Mardi Gras, that's what it means, Fat Tuesday. And basically that's your last time to party and hang out before Ash Wednesday until you go into the season of Lent, right? So the Mardi Gras umbrella, you can see me. I was a little bit bigger back then, but I'm a little smaller now. And what I'm doing right here is you can see me and my wife. This was our 40th birthday, and the Tramps, which are pretty much derived from Zulu. Zulu, that's the black element of Mardi Gras. And what we're doing here is we're second lining. So the second line is a rhythmic dance that's based off upbeat and jazz that's primarily ad-lib, and it's on an upbeat, like on a swing tempo, and you have to move to the beat, and we call it that footwork. You know what I'm saying? So you can see, that Swab Debonair man sitting there. My photographer caught that still, and what we're doing is we're celebrating my wife's turn of 40, right? And that's the way we do things in New Orleans, and that's just kind of how it is. And And you see Gerard up there, you know, he's on the Go DJ list. And DJs, music, everything is kind of ingrained into New Orleans. And one of the things that we used to do in the 90s, I don't know if they still do them anymore, but we used to have DJs and we used to call them a block party, right? And you used to have block parties for about 4, 5, 6 blocks. And you have multiple DJs there and we just have a good time. You know, unfortunately, the good times sometimes stop because of violence, but we still carried on, right? If the violence stopped it for a second, we'll find another way to go get it done. You know what I mean? So po' boys, I don't know if you like seafood, but you know, shrimp po' boys is that. But if you're not into seafood like that, I venture for you to try hot sausage po' boy as well. Terrence, I don't know if you can you handle the hot sausage, brother?
Absolutely. I got some patties in the freezer. Every time I go back.
Yeah, I had to check your New Orleans card real quick.
Oh no, I still got
home.
it. But my footwork is whack though. I ain't gonna lie. But I did.
I'll teach you how to do it.
Yeah, but look, hey, I second line in my wedding though.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I got married in we got married in the East.
Where in the East?
Oh, right on Crowder Boulevard. There was a church right there, right by Shoney's and Winn-Dixie. There's a Winn-Dixie. They ain't there no more.
Hey, guess what? Franklin Avenue Baptist Church is there now. So all that big old shopping mall there, Franklin Avenue built their new edifice there. So yep.
Ooh, cool. Hey Butler, you have any questions on this particular slide or any kind of feedback or input you want to add on that, Carmel?
Well, I kind of I need a short synopsis of what I've missed so far. I've been trying to read and I don't want to repeat anything that's been discussed already. So I was trying to weave in. So you all just been basically talking about New Orleans and different experiences you've had so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're just kind of going over just a formal introduction with Dr. Richards, and we're just covering New Orleans life before we go into his actual journey. And so we're actually kind of mixed up as far as the way the presentation is being set up. We're just going to have him speak, live over the slides, and then just a informal Q&A. So we're just talking about some of the challenges in New Orleans earlier, as well as the energy and the soul of New Orleans. And then we'll move on to the next slide. So,
gotcha. I was actually a part of a group here, I guess about 10 years ago. It was a development group, and we were actually going to do some development after Katrina hit. So they had us in charge of almost I don't know if I want to use the word redefining, but the lots, I guess because everything was wiped out, they gave us like this big stack of plats to where we had to go back and kind of assist in rezoning everything to where it was gonna be. So has a lot of that been rebuilt yet? But we never got anything off the ground. So has any of that been rebuilt, restarted, anything like that?
So New Orleans is like we started, brother, talking about the gentrification process where certain pockets of New Orleans have been rebuilt and there are certain pockets that are still blighted. Like for instance, I want to say 30 to 40% of New Orleans East is still not redeveloped yet,
wow.
Right? Which is causing a shortage in homes, which when there's a shortage in homes, the prices of homes go up, right? So it's a lot. And, and then where Renee is from, the lower nine, it's pretty much not built at all. It's still the same, right? You may have pockets here or there, but primarily uptown, the area where, Garden District and things like that, and the tourist district, those things have been brought back, but there are things that little bit by little bit, house by house is being rebuilt.
Yeah, there's also a challenge too with some of the areas and stuff by the Brad Pitt homes. I mean, I know that's been in the news a lot down in New Orleans and stuff. And what happened was Brad Pitt, through his charitable foundation, had committed almost $1 million or so actually several $1 million to rebuild some of the homes in the areas hardest hit by New Orleans. But those contractors, those contractors that was doing the work, they cut a lot of corners. So some of these homes wound up being uninhabitable, not even a decade or 15, 20 years after, or 15 years after Katrina. And they've had problems with plumbing, electrical, mold, and yeah, some of those people, they are now back out, from their areas. And what they did with the Brad Pitt homes, they actually put the homes back on the same plot of land they had pre-Katrina. And so those people are forced out. Plus you have the flood insurance that's still extremely high after Katrina. And, like Dr. Richards was saying, the cost of living is just ridiculous. So if you're only, if it's one of the poorest states in the nation and, home values are actually higher than it is in St. Louis, that kind of tells you the whole story right there, about some of the major challenges that exist for many of the Blacks in New Orleans.
Yeah, that's incredible. They heard there's still 30 to 40% hasn't been rebuilt yet. Wow.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why we try to, highlight these stories and stuff. It doesn't matter if only 5 people listen or 50,000 people listen, but these stories have to be told and documented in a lot of ways and stuff, because if not, the story's going to be swept up under the rug. So while they're talking about rebuilding America and all this other jazz, you have large swaths of communities where, people are struggling to make it day to day, and they're just getting shafted, a lot of ways and stuff by the system, so like Dr. Richards said, you go downtown, they're rebuilding everything, except for that place that got jammed up with that crane. But, downtown, they fixed it up real quick, and some areas that surrounded downtown and more affluent communities and stuff, they're backing up and operational, but like I said, there's some areas and stuff they still don't even really have, full street lights, after, so that's just unfortunately it's just how it is down there.
So
yeah, we gotta make a trip down there this year. I gotta check out New Orleans. I want to see, I want to see the of course the kicking spots. I also want to see those areas too, just to see the difference in just seeing the blight. I think once you like see it and you can kind of get like emotional about it, and I think that kind of stirs up you to take action, whatever action you can take, or getting the word out. Just let people know. So hey, we got all this bare land that people can have homes and build more jobs around here. That's a huge part of the city, 30 to 40%.
Absolutely.
yeah, it's something that I want to do, like honestly. But the problem is when you talk about economic development and stuff like that, it's kind of hard when you're dealing with a certain demographic of people, right, that are unlearned. And, it's easier for us to go in and buy, put $200,000 in together and just go buy, lots, right, and start building ourselves. But when you start looking at, credit, do you have the money to sustain this, and all those other things? That's one of the reasons why I started my not-for-profit.
Absolutely.
To the next slide.
Yeah, so actually and what we're going to do, Doc, is that we're going to go over the last 2 slides, and then we're just going to have you freestyle and just, speak on your knowledge for the PMP, as well as highlight your not-for-profit. So for those who don't know what a PMP, don't know what it stands for, it's a project management professional, and their careers in multiple industries. So it's not pigeonholed to like maybe just technology, but you can do it at hospital, healthcare, you can do it in construction, you can do it in IT, you can do it in, just in a variety of different industries. And there's also one of those certifications that can launch different entrepreneurial paths. So you could be a consultant, you could be a trainer, you can contract as faculty, as Dr. Richards and myself do for Bellevue University. And when I was pulling the data together, it was really interesting that the expected growth was 33% by 2027. And that was as of last year during the pandemic. So 22 million jobs. And one thing I didn't even provide was the fact that it has global, it has a global prestige, meaning that if you have a PMP, you're highly sought out, not only in the United States, but you're also sought out in the world. So, we do these slides with the path towards generational wealth to outline, hey, there's so many different opportunities for us to accumulate, income to generate wealth, and and to be entrepreneurs more than just what we see in a traditional, Black culture. So, it's definitely something to kind of check out if you are trying to figure out, hey, this is what I would like to do. Now, obviously, the exam is very difficult, but the requirements are very simple. So if you have at least a bachelor's education, you can get your educational hours online or in person, and you have to have so many contact hours, and it varies per every degree. But like I've actually had advised some students before. It's like, well, I don't know what I want to do after I get my master's, or should I get my master's? And they tell me what field they are. I tell them, you need to study for your PMP. And so I said, because that way, the median salary is 112. But entry level, you're probably in the mid 80s, low 90s when you first walk in with the PMP and just a bachelor's degree. So you can actually forego the cost of getting a master's degree or a doctorate if you're fortunate enough to get your certification, and then have the employer pay for your master's and doctorate if that's what you desire. And that way that could cut down your student loan costs or potential student loan costs, which means that's money that's saved in your pocket. So one last slide, Dr. Richard's background, great, outstanding brother. He's an alpha. And, like I told him before, before he came on board and stuff, I've had a lot of alphas on this program. And so I need to go ahead and dilute that a little bit and stuff before it becomes the Mahogany Alpha,
Which is good, baby.
A5A show and stuff. So we got to, I know we've been going at it for 11 years on that one, but he's a program manager at Raytheon Technologies out in Alabama. And he originally was in Tucson before that. So he had a very interesting career path. He's actually an adjunct faculty for the Master of Project Management with Bellevue University with Dr. Rahim, who couldn't be with us today. He is also an Air Force veteran carrying 2 degrees, his DBA from Walden, and he has an executive MBA from Troy University, and he is a life member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And he's also a Southern University band alumni and president and CEO of Rise, Build, and Achieve. And so with that said, Doc, take it away.
Hey man, I'll pay you $20 for making me look that good on paper, man. I appreciate you for that.
I'll give you my cash app, bro.
Yeah, I got you. I'm gonna cash app you right now. You get a ding.
Absolutely.
Seriously, my educational journey is one that is very near and dear to my heart because I do have dyslexia, right? So, and I take that with me and I push everywhere I go. So, going from being a smart kid, not understanding to actually working hard, in the educational system that I went through, no one knew what that was. So I didn't have the help. So I had to persevere through myself, right? So part of that is the reason why I started my nonprofit, because there are different modalities of learning. And I'm currently reading a book called The Pedagogy of the Oppressed. And one of the things that I want to do is liberate people, not just from a physical or mental standpoint, but at a financial piece as well. So everything that I did it, to make sure that I was able to be an active citizen in society, but also give back. So one of the things that I used to tell my church is, I went and got the MBA or the doctorate, let me give it to you for free, right? So I try to give people free game. And that's one of the things I try to do from perspective of the help of my lovely wife, who is the COO of Rise, Build, Achieve. And here's a good thing where I just want to promote Black love, right? Because we grew up together as teenagers and we've been together for almost 26 years now. And we grew together, but we see the same things. We're from the similar neighborhoods, New Orleans, Louisiana, right? And the thing that I really want to talk and interject here is that, from the mental standpoint, I started talking as we were fellowshipping before we started, that there's a mental aspect of why we are where we are today, right? Even though you could be as successful as you want to be, but at the end of the day, to somebody, you're still Black, right? At the end of the day, you could be an Air Force veteran, but somebody call you a nigger to your face, right? You could be a saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost person, but to somebody you're just another black man or a target, you know. And the thing that I want everyone to understand is persevering through your challenges can get you the salaries and do everything you want. And there's an element of entrepreneurial that is not just owning a business. It's having multiple intellectual opportunities like myself and Terrence do. I have a job, I adjunct, I have my nonprofit, I consult, right? So being entrepreneurial is not just always about necessarily owning a business or storefront. Your business is this thing here in your mind, right? Your intellect, what you're selling, your intellectual capital. And that's the thing that I try to get individuals to do. If you're good at, cleaning, that's your capital. Go start a cleaning job, right? There's nothing beneath, because I know how much I pay my cleaning lady every 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So we can all find a way in society and find our right. But the thing is, it's this mental thing that I think cognitively, if we could understand and take care of this mind, all of the challenges that we have, and I always talk to my Caucasian counterparts about this, and I say, you know what? If we didn't have the 10 hurdles that we had to jump every day to be productive, if we could just do 5, you know what I'm saying? Or what if I didn't have any hurdles to jump? You know what I mean? How much more energy would I have? Will the infant mortality rate lower? Will I live longer? Will I have more longevity because I'm not always fighting, this invisible stigma of being black. You know what I mean? So from the Mahogany Thoughts perspective, we as people, we can be active participants in society. We have to first understand what our degrees are, the paths that we are. So I typically mentor and I tell people, if you're going to go to college, don't major in something that's easy just to get a degree. You know what I mean? Make sure that when you go to the school that you're doing something that you can actually have a salary for. And if you're going to major in psychology or sociology or any of the abilities, you have to go further than just that bachelor's degree, right? You have to do a few things and you have to get certified. There's a great thing that you talked about, certifications, right? Certifications will take you to the next level because it tells a company that I'm certified, that I am a professional and is right. And that could be the difference between $20,000 to $30,000 in your salary. You know what I mean? So all these elements that we put together, who I stand for as an individual, I wear this burden because I am called to the ministry, and I feel like the Black community has so many things, and I infuse a whole lot of stuff into one thing. I mean, it's a small bit of time. Just go back and listen. I hit a few points, several points, because those are the things that are keeping us back. And the next thing that I will talk about is I think we need to really focus on, the family, the community, one family at a time. At first I used to want to save the whole Black race, right? But right now, I just want to take one family and minister to that family at a time so they can be productive in society. Because the way your kids are, like I've talked to my white counterparts and stuff that I've learned from them is wealth management, right? Which I've understood is they don't just they don't kick their kids out their house at 18. They give their kids the chance to make mistakes and capture them. You know what I mean? And also work towards a plan where they don't have to graduate from college with student loans, So these are the type of things that we have to be intentional about in our community. And the last thing that I would say about our community is we have to understand what capitalism means, right? We have to understand what capitalism means, and that's where I would say. So with that, I'll let you go with that.
Hey, Dr. Rich, I have a question for you. Definitely impressed with the background and everything that you've accomplished. It's absolutely awesome. the way you contributed to the community and whatnot. But how old are you right now?
42. 42.
Okay. So just have a question. Let's say 20 years from now, and a couple of guys are sitting around talking, and let's say that you have affected them in some way. What is, like, I would say, the greatest compliment somebody could give you from the way that you've affected their life? You hear some people just talking, and somebody that you've helped or mentored. What's the greatest compliment that you think you could hear them give you? Maybe 20 years down the road.
What I would say is, I made it. You know, whatever you taught me, it helped me and my family. You know what I mean? And I get emotional to this day when I have a mentee tell me that. You know, so 20 years from down the line, I want to make sure when I say October 7th, 1978, so whenever I leave this earth, that dash, I want it to be so many stories that say that you helped me, and I'm getting emotional about that because I feel that in my heart that I made it, that I overcame, that, you know, I didn't know I could do it, but now I'm doing it. And also I'm paying it forward. That would be the second part. I'm paying it forward. I'm helping somebody because, you know, as you sow into one, someone, you know, they'll be able to sow into another one. And that's called, you know, Black proliferation, right? Love, right? And love is multiplying. That's what I would say.
You know, I really think that what you said was earlier about entrepreneurship was very interesting, because I think that for us being Black, we feel like that we have to always be in a money-making mindset. And so I found myself actually giving more free advice than worrying about charging, because if I charge and I know what the numbers and the data is as far as like financial mobility and whatnot, those people are not going to come back. And so even though I'm working on developing financial classes for people to download for, you know, for their own perusal, it is something very more powerful for entrepreneurship, and, you know, and it's your mind. And so I just real quick, could you please explain that perspective? Because it actually does make me think about something I read, and I can't think of who wrote the book, but they said that entrepreneurship is more about, you know, creating, it's more of the innovation than it is about the finances. And so could you please speak on that briefly on that, sir?
So the intersection in which entrepreneurship thrives is innovation, right? And innovation is, you know, creating something out of nothing. You know what I mean? And when you look at that theory, so like for instance, from an entrepreneurship perspective, if you need $100,000, you may not have $5 in the bank, right? And the only reason why I'm going back to money is because that's what people can grasp, right? But if I'm innovative enough to create a strategy to kind of take the little chink marks off that $100,000, right? Over time, I've become innovative in that own right because I created the space for opportunity to flow, right? So that's what that's what entrepreneurship means. It's not just I got to have a storefront and I'm gonna be a millionaire. Entrepreneurship is taking an opportunity, understanding that we are entrepreneurs because slavery made us entrepreneurs, and taking that something and making out of scraps, like Grandma used to say. You know what I mean? Taking that pie, taking gumbo, whatever you want to do, and make it from scratch is an entrepreneur and innovative mindset, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. Butler, do you have another question for Dr. Richards?
Yeah, I do have another question. So when you got, what is it, the PMP certification?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As far as that, because this is actually the first time I've even heard of it. It definitely sounds interesting. What was the initial motivation in getting that certification, and how was that certification help expand your entrepreneurial walk?
So I'm a program manager by trade, so project management. So program management manages multiple project managers. So I was at a point in my internal career where the certification I had to wait 2 to 3 more years to get it. So I said, hey, I'm gonna put this on my learning plan, and then here my committee chair said, hey Wayne, do you want to come teach project management because you do it every day? And he said, hey man, you got to get this PMP. And from there, I just studied for it. And it was something that I had already wanted to do prior to graduating with my DVA, because I'm the one that actually told Terrence, hey, man, why don't you look at this? He was like, nah. Right?
Anyways.
And I was persistent, right? And I took the test. I took it actually 3 times, and I was discouraged, right? That third time I passed, right? Because of my learning methods, but I still passed it. But since then, it's created speaking opportunities. It's created an adjunct professor. I'm almost tenured. I've probably been teaching Bellevue almost 8 years now. And I'm cited, right? So when, first of all, when you have doctor in front of your name, then PMP behind your last name, you know, it's a level of respect that comes with, you know, prestige. And, you know, sometimes I get paid hundreds of dollars just to speak for a few minutes, right? So in that regard.
Gotcha.
You know, it was really funny though, when I think about it chronologically and stuff, it seems like whatever Doc does, it seems like I'm a step right behind him and stuff, but it's not so much a competition or envy and stuff. It's out of very much mutual respect. And so it kind of makes me think about, you know, who you surround yourself with to push you and encourage you, because by the end of the day, you know, he got his doctorate first, and then I got my doctorate right after him, and he encouraged me to do it. And the same thing with my PMP. He got his first, and I know that his was more, you know, specific for the job that he does at Raytheon. And I was just kind of still trying to find my way in certain areas and stuff. And so he did that in the recommendation. I failed it like maybe three times, maybe 4. And it is a very hard test. I mean, it has a 50% fail rate, but there is a strategy to study for it, but you have to dedicate the time for it. But it's something that I'm very proud of having. And, you know, I'm trying to, you know, work with something with one of the local universities where I can start teaching their executive education for project management. That opportunity would not be available if I didn't get my PMP. The doctorate is, you know, like Doc said, you know, having a doctorate is one thing and stuff, but having something certified, I mean, nobody can't take that away from you. And so, you know, when we talk about in the era where, you know, we come, it's very relaxed and we come dressed down for these podcasts and whatnot, you know, they look at us as Black people. They look at us as a Negro, a nigga, whatever they want to call us. And it's really just interesting and stuff, you know, like when you do have it and stuff, it's not still the same level. We shouldn't have to go that far to get that respect, but just to be able to get that type of respect, and they know that you're coming with it. And so that's something that I try to really, again, try to get more African Americans to do because of the earning potentials and the entrepreneurial paths and things like that, because it's more than just saying, okay, we got a job, or we got a consulting business, or we got, you know, we sell, you know, particular, you know, beauty products, whatever. You know, we need to get to the point where we are helping other families and stuff and lifting other people up and being able to help rebuild cities like New Orleans and St. Louis and Chicago, where in our Black neighborhoods, because otherwise, you know, we're just, you know, individual success is just floating off in the wind, and not operating as a collective. We need to learn how to get back as a collective.
Yep.
Carmel, do you have anything that you would like to add to this particular conversation?
No, I'm just sitting back enjoying all this wonderful information and listening to the scholars. And I really don't have anything to add at this time.
Sounds like a plan. Butler, do you have any other questions?
Well, I do have a question for you, Duncan. The certification, the PMP, is that what you just recently got?
Yeah, remember
Yeah.
The time I was fussing about, I mean, I got stuff for the stupid exam. Yeah, that was a stupid exam.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So all the times you came over when we was watching football, and I'm sitting here, had my face buried in the iPad and stuff, and pushing little buttons. You know, that was me taking the practice exams. But it was definitely worth it. And you know, like with Doc, I'm at Bellevue University. That's one of the universities I teach. So I teach their project management class. I know like Doc, the students are, my students, they're mad at me probably about as often as they're mad at him. But to me, as far as
Not anymore.
yeah, you probably tick them off a little bit more than I do, but I do a pretty good job too. But I think, but for me, my thing is stuff is that, how many times have we been in a classroom situation and we was discounted the moment that we walked in the door, or if our name, if we had our photo online in the class and they see our face, they're automatically discounted our intelligence and stuff, like if we had an excuse, like, oh, my uncle had a heart attack or whatever, can I get 3 or 4 days off and stuff? There's no way in hell that I would have gotten that break. You know what I mean? So it's really just interested in being on the academic side and being an instructor, just a variety of reasons. I won't call them excuses for now, but the reasons that they say they can't complete homework assignments, things like that. Whereas with Doc and I, we really didn't have too much wiggle room. You know what I mean? And for both of us, we had hella challenges trying to just get in our doctorate, especially Dr. Richards. I remember, we had a lot of phone calls and stuff about, how they try to, basically run him out of town, because they didn't like his approach, or they said that he was, codified time arrogant, and same thing people say about me. There's people say I'm arrogant, and even amongst our own people say I'm arrogant. I'm not arrogant. I'm straight no chaser. But
straight up no chaser.
Yeah, straight no chaser.
2 times on Saturday. And that's one thing I want to just highlight that to everybody listening. Sometimes Black excellence come off as arrogance because they don't expect us to be that smart. I've actually had someone tell me that in the program. I had a 4.0, and everybody used to come for my neck. You remember that, Terrence, man?
It came for you hard. I thought they was gonna come for me and stuff, like Bokeem Woodbine and stuff, but they came at you hard, man. It was like it was. I thought you was just lunch money or something.
No, it was just the way I was saying, and they would just come, and they still do it, right? Wherever I go, people just come at me and it was like, "Who's this guy?" And then once they realize that I do know what the hell I'm talking about, then they back up. You know what I'm saying? But that's one of the things that I was telling you about, those hurdles that we always have to face. Where they tell you, go be the smart, go be the brightest, but he's arrogant. I've had someone tell me, I would never call you Dr. Richards. Or instead of calling me Dr. Richards, they put Mr. in front of my name. And I tell them that it's either Wayne or Dr. Richards, right? And those are the little subtleties and microaggressions that you have to face throughout your matriculation and your professional career. But the thing about us that I want everyone to realize and not be mad about is we're a resilient people, right? I'm not mad at Georgia because we're resilient. We're going to find a way to get through it. You know what I'm saying? Every time someone try to knock us down, we take 2 steps higher. So that's the thing that I want to say. But in 20 years, to your point, Butler, the only thing that I would ask is when I turn 62, about to be 63, I hope that young Black man or woman that I mentored will say that it wasn't as hard for me as it was for you, right? I didn't have to claw to the top. I had other Black people around me, and I do have other Black people around me. So my colloquia and my heritage, if I cite a song to make a point, it doesn't have to be Nirvana or, or something like that. It can, if I do a Frankie Beverly Mays reference, to make a point in a meeting to drive my point home, people will get that. You know what I mean? So in 20 years from now, I hope that, and I praise God that, that the outset of what George Floyd went through as a martyr is changing things. And I see it from the corporate standpoint where they're changing their charters and doing a whole lot because of that. So the last thing I would say is, I just hope that, just because you're Black doesn't mean that you're excellent. There's there's some imposters there too, right? And what I don't want to happen is a person that didn't put the work in to get in a position to continue to make it bad for his people, right? So there's some accountability that we have to do as people to push back on those people and to blindside tackle them, intellectually, right?
Yeah.
Or pull those people to the side and mentor them and say, hey, look, man, you're just an empty wagon. Let me help you put something in there. And those are the things that in the next 20 years, when I'm in my 60s, that if I look back over my life, I'll be truly blessed if I can sit back and say that I made an impact and people say that they made it. You know what I mean? So that's what it is.
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Yeah, like everything you said as far as us collectively helping each other. And I just want us to get to a point as a people to where once we reach to a certain level, we're just searching on people to reach back and bring up, just constantly pouring out knowledge. Like one of the reasons we even started the podcast, we just want to just get the information out there, and hopefully somebody gets it. If not, you did your part. You can't help everybody, but those that get it and want more and want to be, I would say, a blessing to their people, for lack of a better word, then they have the ability to do that. So there's so much information out there, and if we as a people can just collectively come together and just strive for more. And there's so much information out there, like financially, as far as building better families, building better communities. If we just have to get on one accord and just like one thing that stuck out to me that you were saying is you got to put in the work. I like what you said, just because you're Black doesn't mean you're excellent. You got to put in the work to earn that title of being excellent. And excellence it takes long nights. It might take tears. It might take some relationships with people who not on the same accord with you, but just being determined and fighting through whatever to see that vision come through. Most definitely. I'm with it. I see the vision.
Absolutely.
All right.
Queen Carmel.
So one thing I would request is I want you to do, and it don't have to be me. You need to do a Mahogany Thoughts about. I want y'all to download this book. It's called The Pedagogy of the Oppressed, and it'll kind of help you. Pedagogy of the Oppressed, and now there's some Marxism in there, but there's some things that are good with respect to it. And it's by Paleo Ferrer, right? And I'll text it to you, Doc.
Okay.
And you'll hear some things, and this guy comes from Brazil, and he was a good sociologist, right? And there's a lot of things that he talked about. The only thing that I won't lean to is where everybody has to be equal in society. But there's some things why the oppressed people, and it don't have to be me to be on there, but I think you need to talk about that because it'll help free some people's mind.
How about we do bring it back on there? Maybe not this season, but maybe the following season. I mean, you talk about it, you be about it. You hear me?
I can. I was trying to get out of a speaker engagement, but I'll come back.
Yeah, it'll probably be later. Yeah, it won't be this month or next month and stuff because we got about maybe 6 more shows and we're already booked up on that. But we'll definitely have to bring that back up on Wax. The next go around for sure as we come up with topics and stuff. So, Queen Carmel.
Yeah, I just had one question. I kind of briefly wanted to speak to the statement that you made, Dr. Richards, about someone referring to you as cocky or arrogant. And I just wanted to say that when it's someone that's of color, specifically an African American, and you have confidence, it's unfortunate that you have to face being called things like arrogant and cocky. Whereas when it's someone that's not African American, specifically Caucasian for sure, they use words like, oh, he or she's confident, or he or she is very direct, or they're straightforward. They don't typically use
passionate,
arrogant. So that's very unfortunate. And the other thing that I wanted to speak to was the fact that there's a person or some people that refuse to give you the name that you have earned, Dr. Richards. So I just want to say that, it kind of reminds me of slavery days in a way, that there's a mindset there that, even our marriages, and I mentioned that last week when we were talking about marriage in the Black community, they weren't recognized. And so getting a college degree, especially a doctorate degree, which is the highest degree, obviously, that an individual can earn, and things like getting married, those are two of the the greatest accomplishments that we can achieve in our lifetime. And so the fact that here we are still today, achieving those things, and we have people that don't want to recognize them. And unfortunately, sometimes it's our own.
I will tell you that's, see, when we do this oppressed thing, there's going to be a lot of where I believe that oppression is not just that of our Caucasian counterparts that are racist, but I think systemic racism is proliferated through some of what I'm gonna call the Black Guard. But we're going to talk about that at a different conversation, because we could talk about that for 3 hours, right? So to your point, a lot of us hold us back, and I'll just leave with a story that I was going to law school when I was in the Air Force, and I needed to take a couple of more credits to get back to Southern University. And my Black supervisor kept me on shift, on a different shift, so I won't be able to take the courses, right? And I asked him, I said, "Hey man, why didn't you let me take these courses?" He was like, "Because he was about to leave us and go to ROTC and then become an Air Force JAG." And I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? The Air Force is gonna pay for me to go to law school, right? Here it is when I was smoking Newports and drinking with this guy, when I decided that, you know, my wife was pregnant with my kid, and I had different aspirations, he made the decision to not allow me to be on that shift. And then 2 weeks later, after they moved him out of the job, his white supervisor wrote me a letter, a recommendation for one of these awards that I have. This one right here is broken because in the move, you can see it there. I keep it there because the white guy wrote that for me, and I was the Airman of the Year in a maintenance squadron, and I was to support AFSE. So that's when God showed me that sometimes it's our people that hold us back more than the people on the other side. So I'll just leave with that. But we'll talk about that more on this podcast coming up next season.
Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you. And that was a great point that you made too, Carmel, and stuff, because, and you too, Dr. Richards, because of the fact that we have to understand that it's not really about Black versus white in 2021. I mean, there are some people who do have some racist, mindsets and stereotypes and prejudice and stuff, but a lot of the frustration and a lot of the conflict actually resides within our own people. And so there are unfortunately people who, even your own friends and family and stuff, who may be cheering you from afar, but maybe harboring some kind of ill will, or even, don't really want to hear about what you're doing or how you're succeeding and stuff. And then so what happens is that for the people who do become successful, they become more isolated and more separated from the community. And so you wind up having this eternal battle of, well, do you still continue to, do for your people, or do you just go ahead and just accept it and go to the other side of town, and just do whatever and stuff? And we have to get to the point where we need to stop worrying about the success of what other people are doing, because Carmel has 2 businesses, and she has multiple degrees and certifications. Butler has a degree and certifications in his own business, and vice versa and stuff. And we just have to understand that we're Black people, period. We are, and we all 4 of us, did not get born with a silver spoon in our mouth. And like Dr. Richard said, he grew up with a learning disability, and he had to overcome that. So that's why we made the title Overcoming Adversity. So, people may look, oh, he's Dr. Richards and stuff, but look what he went through and where he grew up. Like I said, he didn't know what poor was, how poor New Orleans was, until he left the city. You know what I'm saying? And, and Carmel, I know that you're not from the St. Louis area, and I know we've talked about it before too, your background and stuff. So, when we have these accomplishments, they should be celebrated and they should be respected, from our own people, and learn from your leaders, to be able to say, how can I get to, remotely near where I want to go, where you're at, where you are, or how can I improve this and that stuff? Come find us. Because we will give you the tools to succeed and stuff. And it doesn't have to come with a price tag all the time. We just want folks to be successful. We want Black families to be successful. We want people to have a nice home, to have their house paid for, to make sure that they can transfer stuff to their children. and their grandchildren and stuff. I mean, we're, you know, that's what we do this for. So thanks again, Dr. Richards, for everything that you did, you know, for your journey. And thank you again for everything that you shared. And that's my concluding thoughts. And we'll just go around. Butlers, if you have any concluding thoughts, and then Carmel, your concluding thoughts, and you can sign us out.
Brother, you're muted.
I was on mute.
Yep.
Sorry, I missed the beginning of it. Beginning of the podcast with the story about New Orleans and whatnot, but definitely enjoyed what I did get the chance to partake in, and definitely look forward to the pedagogy of the oppressed.
Pedagogy. All that means is teaching. That's a method of learning. Method of learning. Gotcha. It's all good. Pedagogy. Right.
Going forward. So definitely interested in hearing more about that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's less than $20 on Amazon. I just looked it up.
Okay, look at that.
I suggest you get the audiobook. It's a good listen.
Okay.
If you have audible.com, download it. It's a 1 credit on your subscription, and it's a good listen to. Right, you can listen. It's a 7-hour listen.
Okay.
All right.
I
Great.
download it now. Yep.
Absolutely.
I stay on the audibles.
I need to get to an audible game. I don't have one, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So
go ahead and do it. It'll bless your life, brother. It'll bless your life.
yeah.
Especially like right now, I'm back in school again, and I can't like sit down and just read. So as I have dead time and I'm driving, I can listen to a book versus curling up and, you know, like with a glass of tea or wine, and I can't always do that no more. You know what I mean? So that's just what it is.
Sure. Well, we certainly thank you for all of your expertise and information, and also your encouragement that you've given to our listeners and viewers this evening, Dr. Richards. Thank you so much.
No problem. I'll come again because my brother just pretty much told me, you know, with the wink of an eye, you're coming back. So I'll thank you all for having me, and y'all be blessed tonight. All right, y'all have that.
You too, sir.
Yeah, you too. All right. Well, that concludes this episode of Mahogany Thoughts on March the 30th. You guys be blessed and have a good rest of the evening.
All right. Good night, guys.
Night.